Let's talk about the best amplifier of the year. I've got a best Class D amplifier of the year and a best Class A amplifier of the year. So let's get into it. Hi and welcome. I'm Hunter Gray, and this is Hunter-Gray-LUV-Music. It's important to me that my music sounds beautiful when I play it. So that's why we are here talking about hi-fi gear, because your hi-fi gear and my hi-fi gear, it helps or can hurt how the music we love sounds. So slow down for a few minutes and enjoy while we have a chat about the best amplifiers of the year. Let's start with my best Class A amplifier of the year for 2024, because it's my favorite. And this amp, the Black Ice Audio FX10H EL84 tube amp, it made my KEF LS50 Meta speakers, it turned them into the speakers that I always wanted them to be. And I always thought they could be, but they just weren't all they could be when I first had them on a Class D amp. So I went to the Audiolab 6000A Class AB amp. Still didn't get it, but now with the Black Ice Audio FX10H, the second generation EL84 tube amp, congratulations, you are my Class A amplifier of the year for 2024. And this amp that brought out everything that I wanted in my KEF LS50 Metas. So let's go over some quick specs. This cost $799 with the stock electro-harmonic tubes, which is what I have. And the fact that this amazing little amp only costs $799 is an amazing value prop, in my opinion. Simply amazing. This is going to deliver 12 watts per channel with these tubes, the electro-harmonics. This amp is self-biasing, which means when you replace the tubes or you decide to do a little tube rolling, you don't need to do anything in terms of biasing the tubes correctly. Self-biasing. Another thing that I love about this amp, it has a subwoofer output on the rear. And in my opinion, the KEF LS50 Metas need a subwoofer, or they are better with the subwoofer. So I have them paired with the KEF KC62 sub coming out of the sub out on the FX10H, and that signal chain of the Black Ice Audio FX10H EL84 tube amp. I'm using the Chord Mojo 2 as the DAC with the KEF KC62 sub in my KEF LS50 Metas. I've finally gotten what I was looking for out of these KEF. That signal chain, the Black Ice Audio, this little EL84 tube amp just completed the system. It got that system to where I wanted it to be, where I thought it could be. The next thing about this amp that I love, do you see this right here? This has a 1/4-inch headphone output on the front. Quoting from the Black Ice Audio website, this taps the tube's power output. Hard to drive headphones will be no problem. And I can tell you, my hardest to drive headphones, and one of my best sounding headphones, my Dan Clark Audio Aeon 2 Noir planar magnetic closeback headphones sound awesome using this amp, and this little puppy has no problem driving those headphones. It also comes with an aluminum remote control, which I don't use. I always use the WiiM home app instead on all of my devices. I don't use any remote controls. To me, come on, it's 2024. I just wanted an app on my phone. My phone is always within reach. I don't want to go hunting around for remote controls that someone else in the family could have used and left between a sofa cushion. I'm not hunting for remote controls anymore. Those days are in the past. This right here, you see, you can select 1 and 2. There are 2 RCA inputs on the rear selectors. In front, you click right here to get it to play from the headphone output in the rear. And this is 12 pounds. It's so little. 12 pounds doesn't sound like much, but it's dense. It's heavy to move around. And can you see how thick this glass on this enclosure is? It's a chunky, dense, little, beautiful tube amp. But there are speaker banana plug options on the rear for both 4 ohm and 8 ohm. Kef rates nominally the LS50 Metas at 8 ohms, but if you read closer, they say that it will dip down, I think, to 3.9, just under 4 ohms. So first I hooked up to the 8 ohms, it was fine, drove it great. I've since been hooking it up to the 4 ohms, and that's where I've kind of been happiest with it. So, all right, I'm going to lift this chunky guy because I want you to see this ventilation. And these are the gloves that Black Ice Audio gives you, because if you're new to tubes, the oil on your fingers is bad for the tubes, and you don't want to touch directly with your skin. You can grab, something. These are really nice. So this heavy dude, I want you to see on the top, do you see that slit is for ventilation? And then do you see how it's vented here all the way around the top? But more importantly, on the sides, it's vented also. So as those tubes are generating heat and it's going out this slit on the vent on the top, it is also drawing in air, cooler air from the sides, so that it's coming in and venting up the top. And look at how thick this glass is. And I'm telling you, this puppy is heavy. Well, I've got it on the front. Notice I basically keep the volume, and this is 12 watts per channel, at 12 noon. The most I've turned it up is to 2 o'clock. That's as far as I've turned it since I picked it up. Take a look at the banana plugs. For the 0 is the ground, and then you can do 4 or 8 ohms, and then you can see the sub out. And yeah, this is for $7.99. The value prop on that little amp is serious. I'm a huge fan. So I also want to say, I think it's a really sharp looking amp. It sort of looks modern and vintage at the same time. It's like you see the tubes, and that's clearly vintage, but the rest of the build and the vibe is modern. And I think it's kind of cool. I really like the aesthetic. So if you have never tried a tube amp before, and if you're at all tube curious, this little amp may be the best way to get your feet wet with tubes. Give it a try. $800. It's really easy, self-biasing. See if a tube amp, quote unquote, may be the droid you've been looking for. Maybe not. How about if you're at the other end of the tube amp spectrum and maybe you're on the Deckware waiting list? $800. Buy this amp to enjoy while you wait. I think this is just a great value at $7.99. So, well, I'm not going to get into, I'm going to skip over, some of the room matching, but I do want to say that when I tell people that I'm driving Kef LS50 Metas, with a 12 watt per channel tube amp. The LS50 Metas have a little bit of a reputation for not being so easy to drive. They're 85 dB sensitive. But I got to tell you, this little guy, I have hit 90 dB peaks. This room is 15 feet wide by 30 feet deep. This is the dining room, and that's the kitchen. Standing 27 feet deep in the kitchen, away from the KEF LS50 Metas, being driven by this Black Ice Audio FX10H with the volume at 2 o'clock. I've hit 90 dB peaks, 27 feet away in the kitchen. Driving to 85 to 87 dB peaks, which is really, that's the highest where I enjoy listening. It's easily reached with this tube amp. Easy 85 to 87 dB peaks, and perfect, clean, exactly what you want to hear. And dBs in the 70 to 80 range peaks are perfect and gorgeous. So you can, the longer you are in this hobby and the more amps that you listen to, paired to a wider variety of speakers, the less, I think, you learn to trust trying to on paper match, watts per channel and dB efficient speakers. Just doesn't work like that. And I think one of the secrets is current delivery. Current is at least as important, maybe more important than watts per channel at driving speakers successfully. And I don't have the spec on it, but this has a lot of current. When I've talked to Jared and Jamie at Black Ice Audio, it's about the current that this delivers. And that's why it can drive 85 dB efficient KEF LS50 Metas to those kind of volume levels. So, and before someone asks, I have never driven these paired together to any volume level with any distortion. So let's talk about the soundstage and detail presentation. This tube amp, when I paired them with the LS50 Metas, just took the soundstage to a whole new level of performance. And well, before I get into the soundstage, I should mention, when I first put the Black Ice Audio into my signal chain, this is the room we listen to the most because this is where we live. My wife even commented on it, which that's really unusual for her to even notice, much less, make a comment. So I asked her what specifically sounded different, and I wrote it down, and she said, quote, "Sounds more crisp and clear. It's like the musicians are now in the room with us." I think that, says a lot. With this tube amp, the speakers just completely disappear in a way that they just didn't with the Audiolab 6000A Class AB amp. With the FX10H, when a keyboard is coming out of the left channel, or if a saxophone is coming out of the right channel, it doesn't sound like the instrument is coming from the speaker. It sounds like the instrument is over to the left or over to the right, or it's just wider, and sometimes the depth, it feels like it's coming from the back. It gives me, I hate the overused term of a holographic, but the sound stage is wider and more three-dimensional in a way that I just love. So there are reasons that the Black Ice Audio FX10H EL84 tube amp is so special. And that's the reason that this is the best Class A amp of the year 2024. Congratulations, Black Ice Audio FX10H tube amp. I've been kind of swooning over this, but I really love this amp. And like I said, if you were at all curious, or if you about tubes, or if you thought tubes are just, you might like the sound, but they're too much of a pain in the butt or too much heat or something, give this a try. It's an $800 investment. You've got a return window with Black Ice Audio. Those guys are great. Just a strong buy recommendation. Now, I'd like to take a quick second to ask for your support for this channel. If you're enjoying the channel, I'd like to ask you to subscribe. So if you're able, please support the channel by joining the Patreon. There's a link to the Patreon in the description down below. I also want to make you aware that most, but not all of the affiliate, the links in the description are affiliate links. You know, for instance, Black Ice Audio, it is not an affiliate link. But the affiliate links do not cost you anything when you buy something. But this channel does get a small commission, and those affiliate links are your no-cost way to support the channel. But I'd love to get to know you if you join the Patreon and learn about your system and what your Grail system looks like and what piece in your signal chain you might be considering upgrading. So thank you again for your support. Now, Class D Amp of the Year 2024 goes to the WiiM amp. Let's take a look at the specs. Well, before we get into the specs, I want to note that with the WiiM amp, the specs are a moving target in a very good way because WiiM pushes out product software updates every week. And I love that about WiiM. WiiM is very much a tech-enabled company. What do I mean by this? My background is working in tech SaaS, software as a service. I'm not a software engineer, but I've worked consultatively with software engineering teams. And it's very clear from the consistent and regular software updates that WiiM pushes out, they have an excellent and well-managed software engineering team. And you and I benefit from that. I personally place a really high value on those bug fixes, security updates, software enhancements, and new features that they push out consistently. This means my WiiM purchase actually improves with age over time because of those software updates. This is the value of software. The hardware I purchased from WiiM remains the same as the foundation, and then WiiM continues to upgrade and add new features along the way. So allow me to add some more hard data to how WiiM is truly a tech company. If you go to your App Store or your Google Play, if you've got an Android phone, search for, but don't click on open, but click on the name of the app, WiiM app. And when you do this, do it with actually the following apps: the WiiM Home app, the Blue Sound, and the Eversolo. I think WiiM and Blue Sound and Eversolo are really the leaders in hi-fi streamers. So once you search for each of those apps, click on where it says version history. This will show you the release history for releasing new software updates for each of those three apps. And if you take the time as I did to count all of those, what you will find is WiiM has been pushing out an average of 5 software updates a month. Basically, that's more than weekly upgrade releases. And they've done as many as 6 software updates in a month. Now, that's an average of 5 update releases per month. The Blue Sound, only 10 software updates over the past 12 months. Eversolo, 20 software updates over the past 12 months. That's just an average of 1.6 software releases per month. But let's compare the WiiM to a true tech SaaS company like Spotify and Tidal. So go to their apps in your App Store or Google Play. Click on the version history. Spotify, 4 updates per month. 25 software updates in the last 6.5 months. That's basically weekly. Tidal an average of 4 per month. 25 software updates over the past 6 months. That's the same as WiiM. Remember, WiiM over the past 5 months did 25 software updates. What you should note is that Spotify and Tidal are actually SaaS tech companies, and that they earn revenue through what's called MRR, monthly recurring revenue, from their customers as you pay your monthly subscription fee. They are basically doing weekly software release updates that contain security fixes, bug fixes, feature upgrades, and new features. And that's exactly what WiiM, a hardware company, but that's why I'm telling you it is really a tech company. WiiM gives their customers that same level of software support and development, but you only pay one time for the hardware, not a monthly subscription fee. That's a great value. So as I run through the specs on the WiiM amp, I'm going to highlight this to point out and refer to when these significant improvements were added to the WiiM amp, because it came out in like November of 2023. So at this point, it's been out for just over a year. Yeah, November 22nd, 2023, the WiiM amp was released. So again, $299. You can spend $79 more and get the WiiM Amp Pro with an upgraded DAC chip. The power module is by Texas Instruments. It's a TI TPA 3255. Both Topping and SMSL have used this power module in their amps. Now, I will say, I think that's a fine power chip. I prefer ICE power modules licensed by B&O. However, I was actually quite surprised that I could not hear a difference between the WiiM amp and my XTZ Edge A2300, which has the ICE power module, when I A/B listened to them back to the back. The DAC chip on the $300 WiiM amp is the ESS Sabre chip, 9018 KTM. That's the exact same DAC chip used on my $1,200 Audiolab 6000A. That's a good DAC chip. But the DAC sound quality does depend on the, DAC chips are better. If you care about that, you can spend $79 more, and the WiiM Amp Pro gets you the top of the line DAC chip from ESS, the ESS 9038 Q2M. So the WiiM Amp has inputs for RCA, optical, and notice HDMI ARC as well. So HDMI ARC means you can connect this to your TV, and I should have highlighted. Notice there is a subwoofer output also. So not only does it have a subwoofer output, when you plug in a sub, it initiates in the WiiM Home app the subwoofer management. And the subwoofer management has high pass and low pass filter settings that you can adjust, as well as you can control the volume of the sub right from your WiiM Home app in your listening position, which is a great benefit. To me, subwoofer setup can be a pain in the butt, and the WiiM app makes sub setup much, much easier and better. The WiiM amp also comes with a Bluetooth remote, so it's not infrared. You don't have to point it, which is nice. But as I mentioned, I don't use remote controls. I just use the WiiM Home app on my iPhone, and I control everything in my house. I have WiiM devices in every room that I have a listening system in. So I use Tidal Connect, and I use Tidal Connect to connect to the WiiM. And then I have, within the WiiM Home app, I have my Tidal signed into my Tidal account. And then once it's connected and the music's playing, I just control everything from Tidal and the volume right from the WiiM Home app. And I prefer that because, unfortunately, the Tidal app disconnects from my home Wi-Fi too frequently, and that never happens with the WiiM home app. So the WiiM amp is Roon certified ready. It got a software release in April of 2024, which was the Roon ready certification. So when this launched, it was not Roon ready. It launched in November of 2023. But in April, got a software update, and now it's Roon ready certified. The amp will connect to Alexa and Google Assistant, but having spent part of my career in cybersecurity, I don't have any of those smart home vulnerabilities in my home, but few people take those security vulnerabilities seriously. But there you have it. The app also has PEQ that gives you 10 bands of EQ, as well as 24 presets. If EQ is your thing, you can try the jazz, classic rock, loudness, whatever, 24 presets, or use the PEQ to help correct some issues you may have in your system or in your room acoustics. In June of 2024, another software release added a new feature, room correction software, to the WiiM amp, as well as the WiiM Amp Pro, WiiM Pro, and WiiM Pro Plus. So the room correction software is done through the WiiM Home app. It uses your phone as the room microphone during the sweep. Android phones got the room correction software in a later update in August. Again, software releases. They didn't wait till, both Android and iPhone, as soon as the iPhone was ready, they pushed out a software release, and everyone with an iPhone had the room correction software. And a little while later, it was June, middle of June, and then early August, they added the Android. The room correction is really so fast and simple to set up that it took me longer to find the room correction feature inside the WiiM app than it took to run the room correction. So once it does the room correction software, it saves that as a EQ setting on your phone. So you can just toggle in the app, EQ on and off. So I A/B listen, just toggling on and off the room correction EQ setting and flat, and you can clearly hear that it made a difference. But I will say the difference was not as much as adding, say, a Class A amp into my signal path, but there clearly was A/B listening. You could hear a difference. I'm not sure if you were not A/B listening, you would hear it. So the difference was not mind expanding, but it was audible. I could hear it. I also think it's subject to our own confirmation bias about room correction and software, but my personal thoughts are about room correction that I'm happy to have it, and I'll most likely continue to play the WiiM amp with the room correction software on when I'm running the WiiM amp in my signal chain. So how does this WiiM amp sound? It sounds like a Class D power amp, which means it provides power to your speakers and nothing more. I did not hear any noise floor. I listened. That's what you have to be careful with Class D, like Crown, amps have because they're pro audio, sometimes have a noise floor. And there was no noise floor that I could hear. I did not hear any distortion. I did not hear any sound coloration of the speakers. This just gets the power to your passive speakers. What about, which in my opinion, that's what Class D, that's just his job. Just drive the speakers. What about their ability to drive, the WiiM amp's ability to drive speakers to louder SPL levels without distortion? Because some online reviews have had a problem with this. So I'm going to go through, I played the WiiM amp on a variety of speakers. The Zoo Dirty Weekend 6 are 95 dB sensitive and 12 ohm. I was able to drive at 100% volume on the WiiM amp, hit 98 dB peak. On my Sonus Faber Lumina 5, which are 89 dB sensitive and 4 ohms, with the WiiM amp at 100%, I hit 100.2 dB peak. On the KEF LS50 Meta, 85 dB sensitive at 8 ohms-ish. 100% volume on the WiiM amp, I hit 93.3 dB. On the Elac Debut 3.0, the DB63 are 87 dB sensitive at 6 ohms. 100% volume on the WiiM amp, 89.1 dB peaks. So with the WiiM amp at 100%, there was zero distortion, and I never heard any clipping on any of those speakers I just listed. My experience was you can crank the WiiM amp 100% on these speakers, and if you can handle that SPL level, you like that, you're not going to get any clipping or any distortion. Now, I should also note that all of those dB peak measurements were at 11 feet away from the speakers, right at the listening point of the triangle in my living room. So zero distortion, and never heard any clipping on all of those speakers when the WiiM amp was at 100%. Now, I go through all of this because I'm aware that Andrew Robinson posted his review of the WiiM amp in January of 2024, just a couple of months after the WiiM amp was released into the wild. And he heard distortion and he heard clipping at higher volumes. I've been listening in the second half of 2024, and I just listed those software updates that came out, and I highlighted to you that weekly, every week, WiiM pushes out new software updates and features and bug fixes. I'm going to suggest that those weekly software updates are the reason that my listening experience was different than Andrew Robinson's. That he probably, I think that's what was going on at that point. But the WiiM amp, as I said, because of their software engineering team and because of their aggressive weekly pushing out new software releases, this amp continues to improve and get better. And that's what I credit with. So I'm going to say, at SPL levels, I was able to reach 100% on the WiiM amp, volume crank on the KEF, the Sonus Faber, the Zoo, the Elac, all with no distortion and no clipping. So my guess is it's the software release cycles that accounts for that difference. So my listening experience, that issue that Andrew Robinson brought up with my WiiM amp and my listening experience over the last 6 months, that doesn't exist anymore, in my opinion. And as a result, for $299 with the best streamer in the business, with room correction software, with subwoofer out, with subwoofer low pass, high pass management within the app on your smartphone, with the ability to adjust the volume control on your sub from your listening position with the your cell phone. Congrats to the WiiM amp as my Class D amplifier of the year 2024. And congrats again to Black Ice Audio FX10H EL84 tube amp as my Class A amplifier of the year 2024. I want to say thank you for watching. My goal is to help you reach and enjoy your hi-fi happy place. And most definitely, please come back to this channel. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you again on the next video. Bye-bye.